Hello, members. Welcome back at Agora Legis, the platform of legal minds, where we discuss legal principles and make them easy to understand for everybody. Today, we are continuing with constitutional history, and we shall be looking at the concept of Asian question. We shall see what are the causes, facts, and implications of the concept of Asian question. And our presenter for today is Ssekayaza Mike. We have hosted him back, and welcome back at Agora Legis.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Council, our viewers today are expectant about uh, what is the Asian question. Was it just a question that was asked? Is it an event that occurred? So we would like you to give us just a brief uh, view about what is the Asian question or the quid of the Asian question.
The Asian question is not just like a question anyone could ask who are Asians. No. Asian question is defined to mean the political struggle, the political question of dominance and economic satisfaction in Africa by the Asian migrants into Uganda in the period of 1920 to 1930.
Thank you so much, Council. So, briefly, tell us what are the main events that led to the Asian question and what is the Asian question main event about? Because you have told us about a political and an economic struggle, but what are those political events that occurred for us to talk about Asian question?
Asian question is far-fetched. Okay, it is an event that happened within Uganda's history, and the reason that's why this happened is because of the construction of the Kenya-Uganda railway. So, at a time of colonialism, the British government imported experts, labor, and employees from Asia. More so to speak, were the Indians and the Pakistan. So these people that were imported, this labor that was imported from Asia, was intending to construct the Uganda-Kenya railway. But after the construction of the Kenya-Uganda railway, then these Asians decided to stay because of the welcoming habits of the Ugandans, because of the hospitality, because of the love and joy
and a good environment.
Another thing is that in Asia already the continent had grown and the population there was so huge. So when these people came to Uganda, they found out that there was a lot of space, and Uganda was a rich emerging field for someone to conduct government. To a person who is economically oriented, they couldn't wish to leave Uganda. So these Asians also saw that as an opportunity to keep in Uganda and then grow their businesses. So that's what we refer to as the economic struggle. But then, when these people stayed here for so long, the Asians, they then later wanted to dominate the politics of Uganda and to also seek representation. They wanted to be recognized as natives. That is the question of self-determination. And the question of self-determination always caused what we refer to as the question: do the Asians that came to construct the Uganda Kenya railway be subscribed to the Uganda, or they are just employees that had come to complete their obligation and then later go back home? So that's why we refer to it as a question, because of the political aspect and the economic dominance that was there at the time. And more so to speak is that the Asian question at that time, Asians had later impacted on the economic growth of Uganda, and they could see themselves as they needed protection, legal protection, because if they weren't protected, definitely at any one point someone could come and chase them away. It is later seen the implication that within this struggle, one of the presidents of Uganda that later came, the names of Idi Amin Dada, came and expelled them in 1972. So these people, before they were expelled, they already anticipated that they would at one point be subjected to expulsion, and therefore they needed security, and that is what we refer to as the Asian question.
Thank you so much, Council. So, members, after understanding the concept of the Asian question being a political and economic struggle, or a point of contention politically and economically, Council is now going to take us through the causes or the things that directly or indirectly led to what we call the Asian question. Council, please take the floor.
Thank you. Now, to discuss the causes of the Asian question, I'll start with a brief introduction, which is traced to the colonial governance. When you trace back to the colonial governance, we realize that His Majesty's government, later, after enacting the Buganda Agreement, we had a discussion in regards to Buganda Agreement some time back.
Definitely.
Later, the British enacted a law which was the 1902 Orders in Council, which was to subject Uganda as a colony to the British. And then later, these Orders in Council were later revised by the 1920 Orders in Council. The 1920 Orders in Council came with a new aspect, which was not in the 1902 Orders in Council, and that was the introduction of the office of the governor, and number two, the introduction of the legislative council, which is referred to as the legico. What was the legislative council? The legislative council was now to act as the parliament of the Republic of Uganda, and this parliament was comprising of British, Europeans. But now, since the Asians had now built the Uganda Railway, they had stayed in Uganda for some good time, there even existed Ugandans, or Africans, and the Asians wanted to also be part of that parliament, which is the legico. And because of the autonomous contribution by the Asians, they later got a representation. They got a representation in 1926. And after getting a representation, then they could propose laws. They could make laws that could favor the interest of fellow Asians, which was never the case to the Africans. And the first Asian that was appointed to be part of the legico was by the names of Chinoba Jethabai Amin. This man, with the support of the Europeans, was in position to enact a law which was referred to as the Trade Ordinance. The Trade Ordinance of 1933. And this ordinance was to govern trade and how the economy of Uganda could run. And later in 1938, this ordinance was revised to suit the interest of the Asians. And a clause that I could pick in this ordinance was that upon upholding of this ordinance, Africans were supposed to be restricted from trading within a 10 square mile from urban centers. What does that mean? That the available and ready market that was within the territory of Uganda was now reserved for the Asians, but not to the Africans. And therefore, that caused a question of whether Africans own their land or the Asians and the Europeans are the ones to enjoy. So this law later influenced the Africans also seek for representation on the legico, because whoever was part of the legico could make a law that could favor the interests of his people. And when you look at this law, It was later revised again. It was amended by the Trade Amendment Ordinance of number 35 of 1950. Yeah, this ordinance was revised to limit this distance. It was now from 10 to 1. Now,
1 square mile.
Africans were also supposed to trade from within a 1 square mile from urban centers. Now, this kind of self-determination and constant struggles, the wrangles, is what we refer to as the Asian question. Now, to go back on the question that was posed to me earlier on, to seek and ascertain the causes of the Asian question, I will start with that. That the trade ordinance, which restricted Africans from trading within the 10 square miles, was one of the causes of the Asian question. Now, those are the laws. They caused Africans to also seek for self-determination and representation. Number two, you can look at the political tension and the need to be represented on the Executive Council. When you look and trace back to the Asians who got representation in 1926, their interests were served on the legal. And this constantly pushed associations in Uganda, for example, the Wataka Association, to also fight His Majesty's government and get representation. We later saw that in 1958, Uganda also got representatives on the Legislative Council. So that is also one of the causes of the Asian questions. Another cause I could trace is the imported labor from Asia. That upon construction of the Uganda Railway, the British government had to import experts from Asia because Asia was a developed country by then. Therefore, the importation of these experts is one that caused Asian question, because we see that after their long stay in Africa, they then later thought of seeking for representation, and that is what caused the Asian question. We can also look at the general framework of the construction of the Uganda Railway. Had it not been the construction of the Uganda Railway, there is no way how the Asians could leave their home country to come to Uganda. So the need to construct the Uganda-Kenya Railway was also one of the causes of the Asian question. Those are some of the causes I can highlight, but I advise people to go and do extra reading to find out, because there are many causes.
Definitely. So members, we have appreciated so far facts and causes of the Asian question, but a pending question remaining is, what did this Asian question imply? What are the main implications or the main significance of this Asian question?
Well, now after looking at the background, the facts, and then the causes of the Asian question, the significances or the effects of the Asian questions are traced from that history. That upon this wrangle, upon this political and economic struggle, then Asians were expelled.
Definitely.
Asians were expelled by President Amin in 1972. That this question did not end. It kept on, though it was not that loud, but this question always kept in play until it was completed by the expulsion of the Asians by a Ugandan president, Idi Amin Dada, in 1972. So, had it not been the Asian question, maybe these Asians wouldn't have been expelled. But President Amin also thought that if these people could actually make a law of restricting Africans from trading within the 10 square miles, then they could also claim which earlier belonged to Africa. So the need to protect Africa and Uganda, then President Amin expelled Asians from Uganda. Another implication I could trace are the the boycotts in 1958. Remember when there was a need of Africans to harmonize with the Asians and then the Europeans. The Africans boycotted and ended up disrupting all the retail shops of the Asians. Africans were never satisfied. It created political race, and as a result, the boycott of 1958. Another implication was the law to independence. That the fact that Africans saw the Asians representing themselves, they also wanted to represent themselves, and as a result, they got representation on the legislature in 1958. So enrollment or appointment of the Africans who represent themselves on the Executive Council by the European governor Andrew Cohen was one of the implications. And to strengthen or stretch that implication is that it later gave Africans the urge that they could fight for their own independence that they later obtained in 1962. All those are effects and implications of the Asian question. Another implication that I can talk about here is I can talk about political parties. Yeah, now that the Africans realized that they could actually fight and be represented, we look at the Wataka Association in 1921 that later became a strong opposition political party, UNC, to seek for Africa's determination. So the birth of political parties was also traced to
The Asian question.
There are many effects, but for now, those are on the right-hand side.
Thank you so much, Council. Members, I hope we have appreciated the principles. I hope we are really grasping and that we are getting to know what the Asian question was about. It is really a pleasure having Council Mike Ssekayaza at Agora Legis. I urge you to like, subscribe, and share to uphold this vision of enhancing academic excellence at law school. Thank you for watching. It's always Agora Legis with Council Ben.